So this started 10 years ago as a radio play, and I would like to understand, Charlie, why you were a little reluctant when you were approached to make it into a movie.
Well, it was something we called a sound play. It was a staged radio play, and the idea was that there was nothing on stage to look at other than the actors reading. There was a Foley artist, and there was Carter Burwell conducting his musicians, and the imagery was to be created in the audience's mind. That was how it was written. So that was how it was written. That was what it was written to be. So when I was approached to do it, I wasn't against it. I just thought we'd have to throw out that element, which I quite liked.
Well, we had been working at a studio called Starburns Industries where we produced animated television content for shows on Adult Swim, and another example is Community on NBC, and we'd worked in this sort of comedy realm, and we were looking for opportunities to broaden the horizon of stop motion, being able to sort of take the medium of stop motion and explore more adult stories, and when I got an opportunity to read this script, it seemed I was a huge fan of Charlie's as well, and it was just a beautiful script, and it seemed like a great opportunity to explore that.
But it wasn't easy to get funding for this. This is really an independent film, and Paramount picked it up out of Telluride in Toronto and really was excited about it. But that took a while to get to that place. Explain some of the reasons why this sort of breaks a lot of the rules of what animation is supposed to be.
We tried to get traditional financing. We went to a couple different places, and it just didn't work out for us. So we turned to Kickstarter. We did a 60-day campaign, and Duke and I had gone through the studio and we found old sets from previous shows and old puppets, and we cobbled it all together and made this 3-minute video just talking about what we really wanted to do with this. And 60 days later, we raised $406,000.
That's very good on Kickstarter. So that was enough to get you started. Mm-hmm. All right, so explain a little bit about the animation and Charlie, and how you directed this together, and how many stages there were, how many animators there were. I love going to visit these places and seeing all the little black boxes.
My role as the director, along with Duke, was to create the movie. So, we worked on the design of the puppets. We worked on the design of the sets. We did an animatic. We recorded the actors.
And you used the same actors?
Used the same actors. We recorded them together, which is an unusual thing for animation. We got the production going a lot. Animation is very front-loaded because, especially at low-budget animation like ours, because we didn't. You can't make. You have to know what going in, down to the frame, what it is you're going to shoot. You don't have retakes, and you can't really make mistakes. So you do the animatic, which is kind of basically the movie, the storyboards put to the dialogue in real time, so you understand what the movie's going to look like, and then you shoot it. So that's what we did. We had like 18 stages.
We had about 13 animators, 18 stages. By the end of production, we had 8 identical Michael hotel rooms. So on each of the different stages, they could be working on different sequences, and the directors worked with everybody. They would go and they'd do their rounds about twice a day, one at 11, one at 3, and they'd check in about the shot. They would move like 4 frames.
So you did like 2 seconds a day or something?
Yeah, I was progressing very slowly. They had a goal of 2 seconds a day.
Per animator.
Per animator, and they rarely hit that. So we produced about a minute of footage a week.
So I have written
Audible
down here. All right,
from the audience.
So what is this 3D printing? How did that help you in this? Explain the mechanics of that to me.
Well, when we recorded the actors, they delivered a very subtle, small, nuanced vocal performance. And so when we were exploring the creative development of the puppets, we knew early on that we wanted them to have the greatest range of facial expressions. So we focused on the eyes is one thing that we spent a lot of time focusing on, but the other thing is the face and how it moves. And so we settled on this type of animation called replacement animation, where the face is split across the eyes and you have brow pieces and mouth pieces. The mouth pieces are for all the different phenomes, and the brow pieces are for the different expressions of, that gives the emotion, like furrowed and worried and surprised. There's about 150 different top pieces and about 150 different bottom pieces, and it gives the animators millions of possible combinations to place them and create the performance.
Okay, all right, that answers the question. But you also chose to keep the visible line. Why did you guys choose to do that?
Once we decided to use replacement animation, we didn't want to hide what it is from the audience. We wanted it to be understood that this was stop motion animation, and when that type of animation is used, it's always painted out in post, so you can't see the seams, and then you don't really know what you're looking at. They do a lot of things to polish and remove things like chatter in the clothing and in the hair. We kept that. There's color variations in the 3D printed faces, which we kept. And it gives it a feeling of being handmade, and it gives it a feeling, it gives the characters a feeling of being manipulated by outside forces, and which they are. And it gives them a feeling of brokenness. And
Well, the other thing that strikes me is you've just taken this so much closer to a certain kind of naturalism than most animation. I don't think I've ever seen any animation that got this close. And the conventional wisdom is that when you do that, you get to some kind of uncanny valley or something that makes people uncomfortable. Were you worried about that?
We were certainly aware of it. We had lots of conversations about it, and one thing that we thought would really help us is the eyes. The eyes is literally being windows to the soul, so to speak. So we wanted to put a lot of attention to make sure that the eyes felt alive. Each one of those eyes, Michael's 12 inches tall, and so his head is that big, and the eyes are like a little bead, so small, in fact, that we couldn't find any like glass eyes that existed for dolls or anything in the world. So they all had to be individually handmade and hand painted, and they're moved by hand individually. So they have to stay together. It's very meticulous and tedious. And then also, we made them reflective so that they would not only look moist, but also so that they could have eye lights, which humans naturally have. If there's any light source present, humans have this reflective eye light. And so the cinematographer, Joe Passarelli, it was like his mission to make sure that these characters had eye lights in every scene. So there were these little grains of wheat, or these tiny little bulbs, super tiny, and they would be hidden in the set in every direction. So wherever the character moved, he would have an eye light.
Wow, that explains a great deal.